to trap the heat from going back to the atmosphere.
It's risen far higher than 42, 44, and even 45 degrees.
The issue of climate change has raised serious concerns around the world. This phenomenon has paved way for the alterations in environmental structures that keep the balance of the Earth. Glaciers have been shrunk, ice on rivers and lakes are breaking up earlier than usual, which in turn will result in a tremendous rise in sea levels and may lead to flooding, thereby causing threats to the coastal environment. Climate change also increases the appearance of more violent weather phenomena, droughts, fires, the death of animal and plant species, the creation of climate refugees, and the destruction of the food chain and economic resources, especially in developing countries like Nigeria.
The heat we are experiencing over the Earth's surface is not directly from the sun.
There is no rainfall.
It has gotten to a stage where it's become unbearable.
For the past few months, residents and people living in Nigeria have been complaining of the excessive heat. This is one of the adverse effects of the climate change and the weather condition.
We have been hearing heat wave, heat wave, heat wave. You don't know what heat wave is all about.
If while we are on Earth, it can be this hot, if you go to hell, it's a big problem.
In this documentary, we will be finding out more about the heat waves, the cause, the most affected areas, the effects, and how we can survive this period. We will be discussing with experts and residents, giving them an opportunity to share their thoughts on the issue.
Heading towards a port resettlement, traffic is a jam.
The worst affected areas are from the north central to the northern region. It's worse in this region because there is no rainfall. The temperatures are also generally high in other parts of the country, especially in the southern coast. You can get up to 35 degrees in places like Lagos, in places like Osun. You can also get up to 35 degrees. But it rains there, so it's better. It feels better for residents. But from the north central to the northern far north region, it's quite bad. It's very hot, and it should be a problem, should be a cause of concern for many people.
What is largely responsible for a situation like this is mainly the changes that we have been witnessing in climate of a number of areas. Normally in the tropics, meaning areas that are low lying at location are closer to the equator, meaning low latitudes. Such locations normally are typically associated with high temperatures. But because of the changes that we are now witnessing in climate, the amount of heat we are witnessing over a particular period of time is now increasing. That is why the trend of heat occurrence is now common in some areas. That was this terminology, this term is used in most areas to describe this heat that is trending over an area for a long period of time.
The weather in the country has been changing. You know, there are a lot of uncertainties, sometimes difficult. You know, the seasons are changing and they are not as the way we used to know them. Especially in respect to the heat. It's so hot these days that a lot of people are complaining.
The weather condition in the country has actually been terrible. I think we've never had it like this. It's really been hot, very, very hot. In fact, I actually heard somebody comparing it with, you know, if while we're on Earth, it can be this hot. If you go to hell, it's a big problem. That's the way I heard somebody, you know, talking about the weather conditions. So that's how bad it is.
The weather condition in the country has been extremely hot, scorching hot. It has gotten to a stage where it's become unbearable. People are becoming very undaring. And apart from the fact that we are adaptive to the weather because we've been here for a long time, but during this period, it's been more intense compared to previous weather conditions we've had in Abuja.
Experts say that the normal temperature for the human body is ranged at 36.5 to 37.5 degrees Celsius. When it goes above this, it becomes discomforting. In Nigeria, however, the heat from the atmosphere has clocked and surpassed the normal temperature, creating record-breaking degrees and leaving Nigerians in serious discomfort. The reason remains obscure in the minds of the ordinary Nigerians, but the experts know better.
It's risen far higher than 42. There are places like Sokoto and Yola where have recorded 44 and even 45 degrees. And you know, it's funny because around this time last year, when I was presenting the weather, around this time last year, when we see a city which is going to strike up to 40 degrees, it's a big deal. Like, okay, the hottest location in Nigeria is going to be 40 degrees. That is usually in Yola. It used to be very hot. We thought it was very hot then. But this year we are seeing Yola rising up to 44 degrees. So it's really unusual. And many people feel that it could be linked with climate change. The climate is definitely changing, and one of the ways it is manifesting is extreme weather conditions. And for Nigeria, we're having this very hot weather at this time.
Because of emission of greenhouse gases. Now, those greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and all that, nitrous oxide and all that, they tend to trap the heat from going back to the atmosphere, okay? So because of this trapping, a lot of the heat is retained down here on Earth. That is why, one of the reasons why we have a lot of heat these days.
The heat we are having over the Earth's surface is not directly from the sun. That is what people need to know, is the heat we are experiencing over the Earth's surface is not directly from the sun, because the heat coming from the sun is not the actual heat that is heating up the Earth's surface. What tends to happen is when the heat comes to the Earth's surface, part of it is absorbed, part of it is sent back to the atmosphere. When it is being sent back to the atmosphere, it is known as a long wave radiation. When it is coming, it is known as short wave radiation. So when it is going back to the atmosphere, this heat is trapped in the atmosphere, and it is the amount of heat trapped in the atmosphere that heats up the Earth's surface. So essentially, the heat we are experiencing is not directly from the sun, but from the atmosphere.
Basically, we all know there's been climate change. There's been so much talk about it. We've had scientists all over the world, talk about the changes we are having in terms of all these emissions from vehicles, from industries, and what have you. So I want to believe that it's a problem that it's coming from, climate change. So
we say global warming is being accelerated due to uncontrolled emission of greenhouse gases, uncontrolled manufacturing of production of things like oil, mass production of industries that are not controlled, releasing all forms of harmful gases into the air that harm the ozone layers.
I can't say CO2 emission because we don't have industries in Abuja here. But I can't even say vehicles because we don't have that number of volume of vehicles to cause emission. But this period is like maybe we're having a version of the global warming.
Our predictions have shown that highest temperatures within the country are expected, particularly in the extreme northern part of the country. And so far our reports have shown that within the northeastern part of the country, for this year, we have recorded temperatures of as high as 42 and 43 degrees. So between the first quarter towards the beginning of the second quarter, the highest temperatures to be recorded over the country, the highest will be 40 degrees. But we have already, our records have shown that there are some locations for some days that within the month of particularly March, we recorded temperatures of high as 43 degrees centigrade.
It's been hot for about a month now. It started getting hot in February, March. This is April. I think it peaked at the beginning of April. The heat went very high in April. But by May, the heat would have subsided because the northeasterly trade winds, which bring the dry weather, will be leaving the country, giving way to a new season. and that's the rainy season. And it's because it's going to start raining, we are not going to be having so much high temperature again. In fact, in cities like Abuja, we've had a couple of rainfalls. This April, there was a storm, although the weather is still hot, but it's just to signify that very soon we get a respite from the rains. And by May, the heat wave would have gone down and would have given way to the rains. It's not going to get worse. It's in about a month's time, most of the states in Nigeria that have been experiencing this heat wave will get some respite because the northeast trade winds are on their way out. They're the ones that bring the dry weather, and the rains are coming.
When you want to compare the climate change or the weather as it is today and what it was before, I think a typical place we can use in Nigeria is Plateau State, Jos, for instance. I practically travel to Jos every week, and it is hot. And that place is one place we know for the tourist attraction and everything that happens over there. People come there because they believe the weather is very friendly. It's a place when you are there, it's as if you are abroad. But today, it is not like that. Abuja is actually hotter than Jos. And I think I heard a colleague of mine saying sometime last week that we had up to 40-something degrees Celsius, and that is hot. If we can have 40 degrees upwards Celsius, that is really hot.
Abuja itself, it's been hot previously, so I think it's a phase. Maybe by next year it might be a bit mild, but this time it's a bit intense. Probably the global warming has extended towards this region. 2019 is more intense. You know, it's been after the election and everything, the heat came with its own issue. It's been serious.
Like last year, the weather was not so as in hot like this year.
Akwai zafi kam duk shekarun da sun wuce, amma wannan yayi yawa.
Gaskiya akwai zufa sosai wannan shekaran da ake. Ana zufa sosai fiye da wasu shekaru. Wannan shekaran da yafi na wasu shekarun gaskiya. Akwai zufa sosai a wannan shekaran.
I think this is one of the hottest years for this decade. Even if there is another, I don't think they may be on the same level, but this year is certainly hotter than last year. And last year was hotter than the previous year. So we cannot say that it will get better next year. It could get worse, especially if the issues, the factors that cause the heat wave are not changing. So if the global warming trend, the climate change trend continues, it's possible that next year is going to be hotter.
When the experience of this year is placed side by side with the previous years, the experts and the ordinary residents seem to agree that the situation is getting worse, and the residents have fashioned out ways for themselves to manage this period of heat. But when we consider the electricity situation in the country, we wonder how effective these ways are.
The government is not too good. If the government is good, you see that they steady light. If they steady light, even there's heat, you will not feel as much as that. Do you understand? Right now, even when there's light, you on your fan, you will discover the fan will turn so much at the point it start hurting.
Actually, if you look at me, last year, I was a little bit fair more than this year. Because after bathing, I can't be able to rub cream, and it's because of the hotness of the weather.
Like a day, we bath like 5 times. We sleep outside like from 7 to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock before we get inside.
Ya samu muna wanka a rana, mu wanka kusan sau 4, mu sha ruwa, muna shan ruwa sau 5 a rana. Gashi ba wuta balle mu sha ruwan sanyi.
We have been hearing heat wave, heat wave, heat wave. You don't know what heat wave is all about. Since the inception of my life, I've never heard what heat wave is all about. Even when rain falls, you cannot know the difference whether rain is falling or not. The weather is so hot, everywhere is so hot. And the worst thing is that there's no light.
When you on your fan, there is kind of hot this thing that is even coming out. Instead of us to receive cool breeze, it's when you come to outside. Like my children, they don't normally put on dress after bathing. I don't normally rub them cream because of the weather.
They will give us light like 5 days on, 2 days off, and that 2 days is not easy for us because everywhere is hot.
Gaskiya wannan hijabi da muke sawa akwai zufa sosai saboda zufan da ake a wannan shekaran fiye da wasu shekarun ana zufa sosai amma addinin mu ne dole sai mun sa mu rufe jikinmu.
This is what causes one of the sickness they used to call meningitis. They used to call it like that. Look, my brother, it's better you have cool than having heat.
In the case of meningitis, you know that when people are living together, there's a way that the disease is transmitted, and heat is one of the risk factors that aid the transmission of that meningitis. So we tend to see a lot of cases of meningitis during the hot season or hot weather. There's an increase in the number of cases of meningitis seen, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. Heat stroke, heat stress. You know, people will present and not actually have those kind of utterance, those kind of grammar. But yes, there are people who present, some people with hypertension come down. There's more hospitalization. That's what I mean. So yes, we're beginning to see some cases of such effects.
The issue of climate change is real and should not be taken lightly. One of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 13, is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. These words should sink in our minds and remind us of the impending danger that will befall the Earth in generations to come if we do not take action to reduce the effect of climate change. The question remains, how can a person survive this period of extreme heat? What has been done so far to combat climate change, and what more can be done?
To present to you the 2019 seasonal rainfall prediction.
Nigerian Meteorological Agency produces and issue out drought and flood prospect bulletin, the agro-meteorological bulletin, as well as seasonal rainfall prediction, among others.
You see, for the past 2 decades, we in Nigeria, we have appreciated the fact that the climate of the country has been disrupted. We have been noticing changes in the climate systems of the country, which are quite different from what we have in the country. Because the good thing about the climate is year in, year out, you are making observation over a long period of time. If the trend is similar, you can know. If the trend is changing, you can know. Over the last 2 decades, we have already started witnessing that climate has changed is actually a reality in the country. And in response to that, what we have been doing in the country is the Nigerian government has been coming up with a number of policies and programs that are aimed at modifying our activities, human activities that are largely responsible for these disruptions in the climate of the country. So there are a lot of policies, there are a lot of programs that have been rolled out by the Nigerian government in order to address these problems.
Surviving the heat at this time is, you just have to come up with your own DIYs, you know, do it yourself. For instance, sometimes I have to wake like 3 times or 4 times at night to just splash some cold water on my body to make sure that, you know, I don't get dehydrated and all that. And then we can't cook so much because you know what it is, electricity. We don't have power always in Nigeria. And when you cook as a woman, a mother in the house, if you cook and you want to preserve your food, it's a problem today because the heat is so much and it spoils the food, and the electricity too to power your fridge and everything is not available. So we cook less. We cook what we can eat for a meal. These are some of the mechanisms I have come up with as an individual to cope with the heat wave.
Every individual can contribute towards reducing the rate of climate change. We may look ordinary, but you can all contribute in your own little way. Try as much as possible to promote the use of safe energy. And if you're a policy maker, you're in a position to take decisions and change policies. You can also advocate for the use of greener energy, safer energy, energy that is more friendly to the earth, such as wind, water, and solar energy. And if you're caught up in the heat wave, try to stay safe, try to be stay hydrated, drink water and other cool water mainly. Let's not get involved in things like coffee and all, because these other drinks could also dry the body. So it's good to take cold water regularly, stay hydrated, stay cool, stay in cool places. Then if you have small children or elderly people around you, make sure that they are also safe, because they may take these things for granted.
Like you can hear from the background, it's gen on. So yeah, if you don't, it's going to affect a lot of people who can't afford to stay or, you know, use the generator. So you can imagine what people are going through. If you have the gen, it's going to cost you money. But if there's light, good for you. But when there's power outage and you don't have fuel, you're in trouble. So I think the government should look into powered electricity to see if maybe they could use these good resources to, you know, to a good use. It could be an advantage to the economy also. This is I think we are in that state we should make use of the natural resources we have. The sun alone can be enough solar-powered channel for electricity. I think we should look into it, because this level of heat could power a whole city. Not the heat, the sunlight itself could power a whole city. It's really hot. Like when there's power outage at night, you're tempted to sleep butt naked at night.
It's a lot of practical things that we have to do to reduce the effect of heat stress or heat stroke. As per individuals, it's just common sense. Stay out from the heat, stay out from the sun, wear sunglasses, wear light clothing, okay? And don't go doing your physical education or your jogging or something in the afternoon when it's very hot. You can do it either in the mornings or late in the evenings when it's cooler. Then if, for instance, somebody by some stroke of maybe bad luck, somebody is having symptoms of heat stress or heat stroke, they need medical attention. They need to be rushed to the hospital where they will get medical attention. Individuals are supposed to eat light, okay? Light, balanced diet. Don't eat too much protein, because it takes the body a lot of metabolism. The metabolic rate will go high. And as the metabolic rate goes high, the person will also generate heat in their body. So that will rather worsen the situation. So eat light things that the body can digest easily, like plant, salad things, those kind of things. Drink a lot of water is another thing that individuals can do. Don't drink alcohol. You know, when you drink alcohol, you start sweating. You're also losing fluid. Don't drink caffeinated drinks, because they also make you urinate a lot. Every ministry has a role to play. The health sector, for instance, we are majoring on what is called adaptation, but we also have some things to do with mitigation. Okay, the transport we use, the ambulance, the kind of gas we use in the hospital, some of them have what they call global warming potentials. That is, they are capable of causing emitting gases that will trap this heat. We have to change from buying those kind of gases and acidic gases and buy the ones that don't have much of that effect or much of that side effect. You know, so there's a lot to do. Ministry of Environment has its role to play. Water Resources has its play. Health, we have our main focus is on human beings, you know, and the hospitals. How we can we don't want people going to the hospitals with one illness and coming out with another one, those kind of things. So we all have things and roles to play.